his tiny penny in your pocket, could secretly be worth a fortune you never imagined. Stop spending your change, because one of these coins might change your life. You might not think twice when a small copper-colored penny lands in your hand, maybe from change at a store or lying forgotten in a jar at home. But imagine for a moment that one of those coins is not just another piece of pocket change, but a silent witness to history, carrying hidden details that most people never notice. The 1979 1-cent coin looks simple at first glance, almost ordinary, but sometimes the most overlooked objects are the ones that carry the most surprising stories. And today, what you're about to discover might completely change the way you look at every penny you've ever ignored. The 1979 Lincoln cent was minted in the United States during a time of economic transition and rising inflation concerns. It was part of the long-running Lincoln cent series that began in 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln, one of the most respected presidents in American history. By 1979, the coin had already gone through several design and metal changes over the decades, but it still carried the classic wheat-free memorial reverse that collectors recognize instantly. The front of the coin features Abraham Lincoln's profile, designed by Victor David Brenner, a design so iconic that it has remained in circulation for more than a century. On the reverse side, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, a detailed architectural design that replaced the earlier wheat ears in 1959. What makes the 1979 edition interesting is not just its appearance, but the subtle variations that exist depending on where and how it was minted. Coins from Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco each carry their own mint mark, or in some cases, no mint mark at all. The P for Philadelphia was not always used on pennies during this era, while D represents Denver and S represents San Francisco, often associated with proof coins made specifically for collectors. This coin is composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin, giving it that familiar reddish-brown tone that older pennies are known for. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, a detail that might seem unimportant until you realize that even slight variations in weight or composition can signal something unusual. These small differences are exactly what experienced collectors look for, because sometimes a tiny manufacturing error can turn a common coin into a rare collectible. Now here is where things start to get truly interesting. While millions of 1979 pennies were produced, only a small number contain rare errors or special characteristics that make them highly desirable in the collector's world. Some of these include double die errors, off-center strikes, or unusual minting variations that occurred during production. These errors are not obvious to the untrained eye, but under magnification, they reveal details that should not normally exist. It is in these rare cases that a simple 1-cent coin begins to transform into something far more valuable than anyone would expect. Collectors have long been fascinated by these anomalies, and in rare situations, certain high-grade or error versions of the 1979 penny have been reported to reach astonishing figures in specialized auctions. In fact, some exceptional specimens have been discussed in collector circles with values reaching around $569,000, depending on condition, rarity, and authentication. While this is not the fate of every penny, it proves that under the right circumstances, even the smallest coin can carry extraordinary worth. But the story doesn't end there. The real mystery lies in how many of these rare coins are still hiding in everyday circulation. They could be sitting in old jars, forgotten piggy banks, or even mixed into the change you received just yesterday. Most people never take a second look, which is exactly why these coins remain undiscovered for so long. The difference between an ordinary penny and a valuable one often comes down to tiny imperfections that only a trained eye, or a lucky moment, can detect. The San Francisco S mint coins, especially proof versions, are particularly interesting because they were struck with higher quality standards, often intended for collectors rather than circulation. These coins tend to have sharper details and a mirror-like finish, making them stand out when compared to standard circulation strikes. Meanwhile, Denver minted versions with the D mark are far more common. But even among them, rare errors occasionally slip through quality control, creating hidden treasures in plain sight. As you hold a 1979 penny in your hand, think about the journey it has taken. It passed through machines, traveled through minting presses at incredible speed, and entered circulation where it may have changed hands hundreds or even thousands of times. And yet, within that journey, something unusual may have happened, an imperfection, a misalignment, or a rare strike that turned it into something special. For collectors, this is where the excitement truly begins. The hunt is not just about money. It's about discovery, patience, and the thrill of finding something that others have overlooked for decades. And while most 1979 pennies remain worth only their face value, the rare exceptions continue to fuel fascination among coin enthusiasts around the world. Some of the most extraordinary examples, depending on condition and rarity, have been rumored to reach values approaching $80,000 in specialized collector markets, especially when they are graded in near-perfect condition or feature significant minting errors. These are the coins that turn ordinary people into collectors overnight, simply because they took the time to look a little closer. So the next time you receive change, don't be too quick to dismiss that small copper coin. Take a moment. Look at the date. Check the details. Because history doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes, it hides quietly in your pocket, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe, because there are countless other coins out there with secrets still waiting to be uncovered. Most people have held a 1984 1-cent coin without ever thinking twice about it. It passes through hands every single day, gets tossed into jars, left in drawers, or used without hesitation for the smallest purchases. It looks completely ordinary, almost forgettable. But history has a strange way of hiding surprises in the most common places, and this small copper-colored coin is no exception. Because while millions of these pennies exist, a few rare versions carry details so unusual that collectors spend years trying to find them. The 1984 Lincoln cent belongs to a long-running series that began in 1909, honoring Abraham Lincoln's legacy on American currency. By 1984, the coin had already undergone a major transformation just a couple of years earlier. In 1982, the United States Mint changed the composition from mostly copper to a copper-plated zinc structure due to rising metal costs. That means the 1984 penny is made of approximately 97.5% zinc with a thin 2.5% copper coating, giving it that familiar reddish appearance while keeping production cheaper. It weighs around 2.5 grams, noticeably lighter than older copper pennies, a detail many people never realize unless they compare them side by side. On the front, Abraham Lincoln's profile remains one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage history. The sculptor Victor David Brenner originally created this portrait, and even decades later, it still carries strong detail and emotion. On the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial is displayed with precision, showing tiny columns and architectural lines that reflect the craftsmanship of the minting process. At first glance, nothing about this coin seems unusual, but collectors know that the real value often hides in the smallest imperfections. The 1984 penny was minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia coins often have no mint mark, while Denver coins carry a small D just below the date. San Francisco coins are usually proof versions, made specifically for collectors with extra care and sharper detail. These distinctions may seem minor, but in the world of numismatics, they are essential clues that determine rarity and desirability. What makes the 1984 penny especially interesting is not its standard form, but the rare minting errors that occasionally occurred during production. Some coins were struck with slight doubling in the lettering or date, known as double die errors. Others may show off center strikes, where the design is slightly shifted due to misalignment during minting. There are also cases where a coin was struck on the wrong type of blank, creating an unexpected variation that should not exist in normal production. These errors are not obvious at first glance, but under magnification, they reveal a completely different story. Now imagine holding one of these unusual coins in your hand without even realizing it. It could have passed through countless transactions, completely unnoticed, while carrying a hidden detail that makes it far more interesting than its face value suggests. This is where collectors begin to pay attention, because the difference between a common penny and a rare one is often just a tiny manufacturing mistake that slipped past quality control. In some rare cases, high-grade error versions of the 1984 penny have been discussed among collectors and grading experts with values reaching close to $350,000, depending on condition, rarity, and certification. While this is far from the norm, it shows how powerful small minting mistakes can be in the numismatic world. A coin that most people would ignore could, under the right circumstances, become a highly sought-after collectible. The truth is, most 1984 pennies are still only worth their face value. But what keeps collectors searching is the possibility of finding that one exceptional example that stands out from the rest. A coin with strong luster, sharp detail, and a rare error can completely change its classification. Even something as simple as a slightly misaligned strike or unusual coloration can turn an ordinary cent into a conversation piece among collectors. As you examine a 1984 penny more closely, you start to notice how much detail is actually packed into such a small object. The fine lines in Lincoln's hair, the structure of the memorial, and the precision of the lettering all reflect the complexity of minting technology. And yet, despite all this precision, mistakes still happened. Those mistakes are what create opportunity for collectors today. Denver minted coins with the D mark are the most common, but even among them, a few rare examples show unusual characteristics that make them stand out. San Francisco proof coins, on the other hand, were never intended for general circulation, which makes them more desirable when found in perfect condition. Philadelphia coins, often overlooked due to their lack of mint mark, sometimes hide the most unexpected variations simply because fewer people pay attention to them. This is where the excitement begins for coin hunters. Because the real question is not how many 1984 pennies exist, but how many rare ones are still waiting to be discovered. They could be in old collections, forgotten piggy banks, or even mixed into everyday pocket change. Most people will never notice anything unusual, and that is exactly why these coins remain hidden for so long. Some exceptional specimens in near-perfect condition with rare minting errors have been valued by collectors at figures approaching $80K, showing that even modern-era pennies can still surprise the world when rarity and condition align perfectly. It is a reminder that value is not always about age alone, but about uniqueness and scarcity. So the next time a 1984 penny lands in your hand, don't rush to dismiss it. Look at the date, check the mint mark, and pay attention to the details. Because sometimes, the most ordinary-looking objects carry the most extraordinary secrets, waiting for someone curious enough to notice them. And if you enjoyed this journey into the hidden world of coins, make sure to subscribe, because there are many more everyday treasures still waiting to be discovered, and your next coin could be the one that changes everything.